Going to take a quick break and talk about Drizzly. Drizzly is fantastic. It's the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits with delivery to your doorstep. And get this, under 60 minutes. It's insane.
Yeah, I think what's also great is you can compare prices and shop different places and get your best deal.
And you're shopping and you're doing a lot of cooking during the holiday season and you're all busy and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need that bottle of wine.
Wrapping presents and you don't want to have to take time to run to the store.
Or you forget a gift.
Yeah.
And you need it delivered real quickly. Here's the way to do it. You download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. And Drizzly is giving every new customer $5 off their first order. What's that promo code, Seaton?
FAST5 at checkout.
FAST5 at checkout. It's drizzly.com.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
Impact of Influence. The tragic story of a powerful South Carolina family and the mysterious deaths that they are linked to. Hello, welcome back to our podcast. I am Matt Harris. Co-host Seaton Tucker here as well. And we are diving into the October 19th bond hearing for Alex Murdaugh. Again, thank you guys. Thanks for sharing this podcast. Thanks for giving us those 5-star reviews. And we are always grateful. Murdoch Podcast on Facebook, a simple way to reach out to us. We will have John Snyder, our legal analyst, on in a minute. So October 19th, it was the bond hearing for Alec Murdoch on charges he embezzled around $3.4 million from Gloria Satterfiled, the housekeeper/nanny for the Murdoch family for many years. And Judge Newman presided. There are those 2 felony charges, and the state attorney general prosecutor Waters described those as, quote, a chain of events that I've never seen before. It's big time. And Seaton, let's get into it and break it down, and then we'll find what John Snyder's takeaways from this were.
So one thing I kind of found really interesting was Waters, the assistant attorney general, goes into a little bit about these 2 settlements that were taken from the Satterfield kids. There was a $500,000 settlement, and there was also a $4.3 million settlement, which came off of Alec's umbrella policy. So in this, he says that Alec took the money and he transferred it to his own account. He talks about $100,000 credit card debt that Alec had that he paid off from this money. He also says that Alec paid his father $300,000. Alec also wrote a check to himself for $600,000, among a few others, and that the Satterfield kids got a whopping $84.
Right. And the thing that really jumped out to a lot of people is the fact that he wrote a check to his dad.
Right, yes.
That's crazy.
The Attorney General calls this the tip of the iceberg. He mentions another $118,000 that was spent in October of 2020. Says this is not part of the current charges, but the investigation is developing. So he expects more charges to come.
The 2 checks, one for $2.9 million, one for $403,000.
And also, another thing he mentions about these 2 settlements, when they took the expenses out, which is typical during a lawsuit, if there were expenses for anything, copies, what have you, those were taken out. But in both cases, for both of these settlements, there were $0, which is really unusual because if you're having expenses, usually they're going to be some dollar and cents at the end of it.
Where that would be $50.33, not $50 even. Okay.
And then we hear from Bland, who is the attorney for the Satterfield heirs, and he talks about that we need to make sure if someone steals with a pen, it is the same as if someone steals with a gun.
Great line.
That was a great line. And he had a lot of epic quotes during this time. He also mentions that he does not believe Alec was an opioid addict. And if he was, how would he have tried all these cases? And we hear from Richter as well, who also represents the Satterfiled kids.
I like that Bland also straight up called Alec Murdoch a, quote, liar and a cheat. Didn't mince words.
He did not. He had a lot of really strong comments during this hearing. We also heard from Harpootlian, who represents Alec, and Griffin, who also was the other attorney, and they are basically saying that Alec has completed 6 weeks of this detox, and he's no longer a danger to himself. And all these things that he has done happened when he was hooked on drugs, and that only after he got hooked on opioids did things turn south.
Right. Then you have Bland saying that's a bunch of bull. In a nutshell, the state and Bland for Satterfield are saying he's a danger. He did the whole hired for suicide thing with Smith. And he has all this money that's sitting around, perhaps, that he could do something with. And Alec's attorneys are saying, listen, man, the dude's a drug addict. He needs to be continue to be in rehab. And the stuff he did because he was high.
Right. And the result of the hearing was that Judge Newman did not grant bond at this time.
Insisted on a psychiatric evaluation, and then they'll go back to the table and decide on bond. Right? All right. Let's bring in John Snyder, former DA, also was a defense attorney. He is this podcast's legal analyst. And John, what is your major takeaway from the October 19th Alec Murdoch bond hearing on 2 felony charges?
The very first thing was the opening sentence of the prosecutor, where he is agreeing to some sort of bond release. So he starts off and he says, we would agree to a $200,000 surety bond, and then goes into all the reasons why they want to do that. So they were not arguing against him being released. They're asking for him to be released with all these terms and conditions that are not standard for a white collar crime. So if somebody else in Richland County was accused of embezzling from their church or something, some other type of stealing with a pen, to steal Bland's excellent line, they would most likely get bond right away. Here, they have gone through all these special terms and conditions to make sure that he appears. It sounds like the judge listened to the request, listened to the rationale of defense counsel, and said, let's go get him a psych evaluation to see, is he nuttier than squirrel poop, or is he okay and not going to hurt anybody or be a flight risk while he's out? And so that was my takeaway from the bond hearing.
So when I watched it, what I thought was interesting was Bland was kind of giving some conditions that he wanted to happen if Alec was to receive bond. And the judge says, well, do you want Alec to receive bond? And he said, no, I absolutely don't. So do you think it is normal for him not to have received bond?
Again, I think it's one of these things where the prosecution and Harpootlian probably agreed to a bond conditions. And it would be not unusual for basically the parties to say, we'll agree to what you're seeking, but we're going to argue, we're going to go into court and give our rationale why we are pro this or anti this. And so the state had that discussion with Harpootlian. Bland comes in on behalf of the victims and basically says, we don't think he should get bond at all. And so the judge is now in this, the judge is now saying, okay, prosecutor, you say he's dangerous, but we're going to give him bond. Defense lawyers, you say he's an addict, but give him bond. And Bland says, don't release him. And so I think the judge was very wise in saying, let's get a psychological evaluation and then see what, how Alex will do on either being out just like anyone else might be in a financial crimes case, or staying in because he's, capable of all these horrendous things.
I want to get to the psych about in a second, but I want to ask, does the bond really matter when the big scheme of things? He's going to cover the bond, so it's not like he's going to be out. So what is the bond argument really neither here nor there?
Assuming that he has some money somewhere, he would be able to bond out no matter what.
So it's not a big deal in that argument, really.
One thing, though, that Richter said, which I found interesting, is he said, on PMPED website, I guess there was an alleged $10 million. This is the first time we've actually heard how much money was allegedly missing. And he says on their website, they say all clients have been restored. So Richter kind of uses the argument with that he was able to somehow restore $10 million, that's why he shouldn't be given bond. So I kind of found that confusing. So I don't know if you have any take on that.
I would assume it's the law firm saying to their clients, we've made sure all the money is back that was ever under any question. Now, that may have been they did a capital call among the partners. It may be that their insurance carrier put that back, or they went to a bank and said, we need to borrow $5 million so that we are in good standing with the bar. I mean, so it would not be unusual for the law firm to do whatever it needed to do to make sure their clients got their money properly.
The leap now is alleged, I guess, that Alec took that $10 million. And is some of these things that are being said in court, are they for the purpose of getting things on record?
Absolutely. I believe you heard the first shadow of the prosecution's opening argument. They're gonna say $85. $85. That's what the Satterfiled boys received from Alex Murdaugh directly. $85. Meanwhile, $4,500,000 went to secure his lavish lifestyle in the Low Country. I mean, that's a kind of a classic juxtaposition argument that you're starting to see it reel out, and at the same time, Harpootlian's reeling out his defense. So this case the trial has begun by both sides.
And we're taking a little break to talk about something we have fallen in love with, which is Green Chef. Seton, you just told me you're ready to go order some more, and so am I.
Yes, I love it. There's so many definitely choices, and everything is pre-portioned, easy to follow. It makes cooking really simple, especially for a weeknight.
Yeah, we're so busy, everybody running around doing their things with kids and whatnot. So just get the Green Chef out. It's one little bag. You're good to go. It's America's #1 meal kit for eating well, meaning the best meal kit, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just want to eat more balanced meals. This is the way to go. And the family loved them?
They love them, and I don't have to go to the grocery store.
That's right. That is a big thing. They come and you don't have to worry about missing an ingredient. Go to greenchef.com/Murdoch10 and use code Murdoch10, MURDAUGH10, to get 10 free meals, including free shipping. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. All right, take a break for a moment. Talk about a new concept in glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. I'm talking about Warby Parker. I've been using them even before they signed on with us. Love the free home try-on program. It's awesome.
Yes, this is the first time I've tried Warby Parker, and you get to order 5 pairs of glasses, try them for free for 5 days, and there's no obligation to buy. They ship for free, including a prepaid return shipping label. Yes, and I took the quiz, and I found out I needed wide. They have everything from extra narrow to extra wide.
Yes, and the quiz helps you, and the selection, amazing. When I show people the Warby Parker app that allows you to do a virtual try-on, they're blown away. And remember, don't let your FSA and HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use in Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams.
Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses.
Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores. Try 5 pair of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/Murdoch. That's warbyparker.com/Murdoch, MURDAUGH. With these particular crimes, if they can find him to be an addict or have some mental illness or whatnot, that helps the defense with these particular charges.
Absolutely. So there's kind of two types of crimes. You have malum in se and malum prohibitum. And that's a fancy way for saying things that you're not allowed to do by statute, like drive 100 miles on I-77. And then things that require a criminal intent. And intent can be negated by impaired mental capacity, whether through drug use or diminished mental capacity, from a medical condition. And so what they are setting up right now is probably to say Alex had no idea who he was, what day it was, where he was going, where he was coming from.
Yeah, I mean, Harpootlian says things didn't start going south till he started using these opioids 20 years ago. And then Bland says, well, how I don't believe it. How was he able to practice law and appear in court? And so...
That's right. That's what Harpootlian wants to say and create the narrative. His post-hearing press conference was fascinating because he kept saying, you should go ask Fleming.
Yeah.
Alex Murdaugh wasn't the attorney.
Right.
Fleming was the attorney. And so that sound you heard was a giant bus that they're trying to throw Fleming under.
I was very surprised when in the post hearing where he's like, why are they going after Alec? Alec's in it. Basically, Alec had nothing to do with all this stuff.
Yeah, and they kept saying, oh, he wasn't acting as an attorney. And then, but then Bland says, well, he was, because you can look at the records between the paralegals and secretaries going from PMPED talking to Fleming's office that he definitely was directing as an attorney.
There's a lot of jockeying going on, right?
Absolutely. They're trying to try their case in the public eye without there being a trial yet.
Let me go back to the thing you said about if it's not criminal intent. That doesn't mean that you don't suffer some sort of consequences. It just means the consequences are different, right?
That's right. So what they're trying to do is go from, the thing that might carry some 10 or 20 year, mandatory sentence and get him into some kind of plea bargain where he has diminished prison time and diminished, culpability.
And that whole idea that, afterward, he's like, Alex wasn't a lawyer, Fleming was a lawyer, but Fleming hasn't been charged with anything. We don't know what's happening with that, but there's some things going on behind the scenes right now.
My guess is that Fleming is the one that's given the factual recitation that's uncovered a lot of this. And so they're going to go after him as the state's chief witness on these crimes.
And probably Westendorf as well, who was the banker.
That's right. The defense's job right now is to damage Fleming's credibility, going from, Fleming's own admissions of, man, I screwed up. And so they're trying to kind of say, well, yeah, he screwed up. He did all the bad stuff. Alex was just, a poor man that didn't really understand what was going on.
I think we have one last question.
No, I have a couple. I have a couple.
Oh, you do? Good. No, go, fire away.
Okay, the Assistant Attorney General says that assets are being sold and disposed of, and Bland says that there have been financial transactions in the last week and a half, and Richter, who is also one of the attorneys for the Satterfiled family, says that there was a transfer of a hunting club membership. So I'm just kind of wanted to get your take. Is it legal to trying, while you have these pending charges, to try to liquidate assets?
It is, in a pending criminal case, it is legal to sell assets to pay for your defense. Now, in a civil case, you cannot hide assets to avoid creditors. And so there may be some clawback provision that they'll seek to exercise at some point. But obviously right now, he has assets, he has legal bills, he is allowed to sell those assets to cover his legal bills, unless either the state, the federal government, if they bring a case, or the civil attorneys can seek to have an injunction entered against him transferring any further assets, claiming that that's waste that's being committed, and actually the money that he's earning is their money.
Okay, but so what do you think about Buster being Alec's financial power of attorney? Is this also a loophole?
No, that's not a loophole at all. It's, Alex is in custody. There's no wife to help him, no other son to help him. So Buster's in charge. So he's got to, pay the electric bill, pay the house bills, all those things. So that's actually a very normal thing to give somebody your power of attorney.
Okay, so one other thing that I noticed when I was watching the hearing was they called a representative from SLED up to talk, and he basically just says, I agree with everything the Assistant Attorney General said, and then the judge kind of asked him to go over what pending investigations they have involving Alec. And so he kind of pauses, he consults with the Attorney General, and he comes back and he mentions Stephen Smith case, he mentions Gloria Satterfiled case, he mentions multiple financial investigations, but he doesn't mention Maggie and Paul's in the list. So I found this really unusual. I don't know if it was an oversight, but I didn't know if you had any sort of take on that.
Oh, one more thing. The Stephen Smith thing is interesting to me and to you as well, Seaton, because we talked about this. He mentioned Stephen Smith, but Alec has not been a person of interest. He, as far as we know, there's not been a tie to Alec. There has been, rumors around town or whatnot, but as far as SLED, which is the state law enforcement division, they haven't made any comments that there's a tie in there, other than they found information after Paul and Maggie were killed that reopened the case. So anyway, that's what I wanted to get the background on, John.
I would not read anything into the omission other than it would not make sense for law enforcement to comment one way or the other on hypersensitive matters where maybe all the witnesses haven't been brought in and talked to yet. And so I would not say that omission from the laundry list indication that they're not looking into it. I would just say that what they can publicly comment on were those things, because they're either, the Attorney General already has those cases, or there's some reason that they're speaking about it. That doesn't mean they're not looking at other things. Those are just the things that the Attorney General said he could mention.
Okay, so one last question. We know that the judge has ordered the psychiatric evaluation. Do you think that he is going to be released pending the results of the psychiatric evaluation?
Based on what I heard the state's attorney saying right off the bat, I believe he is going to be released and be returned to whatever treatment facility. I believe that upon having a psych exam and the state already agreeing to some kind of conditions of release, that he will get out and he will go back to a rehab facility. But that doesn't mean that they can't arrest him again on new charges as things move forward. And so if you're his defense lawyer, you're negotiating, hey, if you guys bring more charges, are we just going to consolidate his bond under one condition of release? Or are you guys going to let him put the $200,000 up and then immediately arrest him again on new charges? So I think there's some legal gamesmanship going on right now related to bond.
Does this mean at all that this could impact his fitness to stand trial, like any sort of insanity thing?
Yeah, I mean, just from like our earlier podcast talking about his behavior at the hospital, there's no question that in all of our reported experiences about Alex, he had some awareness of what was going on around him. So did he suffer from such a diminished capacity that he had the inability to understand right from wrong? The answer to that is probably no, unless they, find an expert witness that can say otherwise.
All right. Thanks, John, our legal analyst. Murdoch Podcast is the Facebook page. And we try to get back to the comments as quickly as possible. Seaton's doing most of the heavy lifting on that part of it. And Seaton, you have a comment for those?
Yes, if I don't get back to you, it's definitely an oversight. So please reach back out to me and I will do my best to get back to you in a timely fashion.
Please share. If you feel we deserve it, give us a 5-star review and we will talk soon.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.